I never thought a damn car rental would change my life. There I was, standing at the Enterprise counter in Tampa, my mascara slightly smudged from another draining therapy session. The air conditioning hit my face as I pushed through the glass doors, my heels clicking against the polished floor. "Last luxury sedan available," the clerk announced, typing away. "Just need your signature, Ms. Baker." That's when she walked in, tall, blonde, with legs that seemed to go on forever, and eyes so blue they reminded me of the Gulf on a clear day. She moved with the confidence of someone who commanded lecture halls. "I believe that's my reservation," she said, placing her designer bag on the counter. "Tessa James." I called ahead. The clerk's face turned pale. "There seems to be a system error. Both reservations are valid." I gripped my keys tighter. "Listen, I've had the day from hell. I need this car. And I have a conference presentation in St. Petersburg," she countered, those blue eyes narrowing. "Time-sensitive research materials." The clerk disappeared into the back office, probably praying for divine intervention. Tessa and I stood there, sizing each other up like two gunfighters at high noon. The fluorescent lights caught the subtle highlights in her hair, and I noticed a small scar above her right eyebrow that somehow made her more intriguing. "History department?" I asked, spotting a university lanyard peeking from her bag. "Professor, medieval cryptography." She raised an eyebrow. "You? Modern cryptography, NSA contractor." The irony wasn't lost on either of us. The clerk returned, sweating. "Ladies, we have a unique solution. The car has a full tank, plenty of room, and St. Petersburg is on the way to Ms. Baker's destination." "You expect us to share?" Tessa's voice carried the same tone she probably used on students who plagiarized papers. I surprised myself by laughing. "Why not? We're both professionals. Besides, I'm too tired to argue." Something shifted in her expression, amusement, maybe curiosity. "Fine, but I'm driving." "Not a chance in hell," I shot back, grabbing the keys from the clerk's hand. Our fingers brushed as I pulled away, and I felt a small jolt that had nothing to do with static electricity. As we walked to the car, our heels synchronized on the pavement, I caught her stealing glances at me. The Tampa humidity made my brunette hair curl slightly, and I knew my green eyes stood out against my flushed cheeks. "Just so we're clear," she said as we reached the black sedan, "this is a one-time thing." I opened the driver's door, smirking. "Of course, Professor. Wouldn't dream of making it anything else." Little did I know, as I adjusted the mirrors and she settled into the passenger seat with her laptop, that this bizarre car-sharing arrangement would unravel every certainty I had about my life. The air between us crackled with something I couldn't decode yet, but my fingers tingled on the steering wheel as we pulled out of the parking lot and into the Florida afternoon. The first 10 minutes of our drive passed in tense silence, broken only by the hum of the AC and the occasional tap of Tessa's fingers on her laptop. I kept stealing glances at her in my peripheral vision, watching how the sunlight played across her features. "So, cryptography," she finally said, closing her laptop. "Must be more exciting than dusty old history books." "Depends on your definition of exciting. Most days I stare at screens until my eyes blur." I navigated around a slow-moving truck, though I bet you have some fascinating stories about medieval secrets. She smiled, and something in my chest tightened. "You'd be surprised. People haven't changed much in centuries. Same desires, same fears." The sky darkened suddenly, that typical Florida afternoon storm brewing. Fat raindrops began hitting the windshield, and thunder rolled in the distance. Within minutes, it was a downpour. "Damn it," I muttered, squinting through the sheets of rain. "We should probably wait this out." A neon sign for Rosie's Diner appeared through the gloom like a beacon. I pulled into the parking lot and we made a mad dash through the rain. Despite our best efforts, we both got soaked. Tessa's blonde hair turned darker, clinging to her neck, and I could feel my own clothes sticking to my skin. "Well," she laughed, wringing out her hair, "so much for professional appearances." We slid into a booth, ordering coffee from a waitress who looked like she'd seen every story this diner had to offer. Tessa pulled out a tissue, reaching across the table to dab at my running mascara. Her touch was gentle, careful. "Force of habit," she explained, pulling back quickly. "I'm always cleaning up my students' messes." The coffee arrived, steam rising between us like coded messages. I wrapped my hands around the mug, trying to ignore how my skin still tingled where she'd touched it. "Why Tampa?" I asked, desperate for conversation. Plenty of universities up north. Divorced 3 years ago, needed a fresh start. She stirred her coffee methodically. You? Government contract. Plus, running away from my own romantic disaster. I hadn't meant to be so honest, but something about the rain-soaked intimacy of the moment loosened my tongue. Hence the therapy session? Her voice was soft, understanding. That obvious, huh? Your eyes were red when you came into Enterprise. Not just from crying, the kind of red that comes from talking about things you'd rather forget. The rain drummed against the windows, creating a cocoon around our booth. We talked for hours, about everything and nothing. She told me about her research into female scholars in medieval monasteries, and I shared sanitized stories about code-breaking operations. Look at that, she said eventually, nodding toward the window. The rain had stopped, leaving everything washed clean and gleaming. As we walked back to the car, our shoulders brushing, I realized I'd forgotten to check my phone or email, something I hadn't done in years. Tessa had a way of making time slip sideways. Your turn to drive, I said, tossing her the keys. She caught them with a raised eyebrow. Having second thoughts about control, Ms. Baker? Let's just say I'm learning to share. I settled into the passenger seat, watching her adjust the mirrors with precise movements. The rest of the drive passed too quickly, filled with comfortable silence and occasional debates about historical accuracy in movies. When we reached her hotel in St. Petersburg, there was an awkward moment as she gathered her things. Thank you, she said, for making what could have been a terrible day into something interesting. Same here, Professor. I watched her walk away, her confidence somehow both intimidating and alluring. As I slid back into the driver's seat, her perfume lingering in the car, I realized I was in serious trouble. The kind of trouble that no amount of code-breaking experience could help me solve. The university's support group met in a room that smelled of stale coffee and broken hearts. I sat in the circle, fidgeting with my sleeve, wondering how I'd let my therapist talk me into this. The facilitator, Dr. Martinez, had kind eyes and a voice that could probably talk down a hurricane. Welcome, everyone. Let's start with introductions. I listened to stories of betrayal, loss, and healing, each one echoing pieces of my own. When my turn came, I kept it brief. I'm Adeline. My partner of 5 years left me for someone else. The sympathy in their eyes made me want to bolt, but something kept me glued to that uncomfortable plastic chair. Maybe it was the way they nodded, understanding the unspoken parts of my pain. After the session, I wandered the campus, killing time before my next meeting. The autumn breeze carried the scent of magnolias, and students rushed past with their oversized coffees and overwhelming optimism. That's when I saw the flyer. Guest lecture, Women Codebreakers of Professor Tessa James. My heart did a complicated dance in my chest. I'd been trying not to think about her since our shared car ride 2 weeks ago. Yet here was her name, taunting me from university bulletin board. The lecture hall was packed when I slipped in, finding a spot near the back. And then there she was, commanding the room in a tailored blazer that made her look like she'd stepped out of a fashion magazine. These women, her voice carried clear and strong, weren't just breaking codes, they were breaking barriers. I watched her hands gesture passionately as she spoke about hidden messages and secret histories. She hadn't noticed me yet, and I used the opportunity to study her openly. The way she moved, the slight tilt of her head when she emphasized a point, the spark in those blue eyes when she discussed particularly clever code solutions. Then she looked up, straight at me. Her words faltered for just a moment, so brief that probably no one else noticed. But I did. Our eyes locked, and suddenly I was back in that rain-soaked diner, sharing secrets over cooling coffee. After the lecture, students swarmed her with questions. I hung back, pretending to check my phone, until the crowd thinned. Cryptographer Baker, she said, approaching with a smile that made my pulse jump. Spying on my lecture? Professional curiosity. I shrugged, trying for casual. Though I have to say, your take on the Bletchley Park operations was interesting. Is that your polite way of saying I got something wrong? Maybe we could discuss it over coffee? The words were out before I could stop them. She paused, considering me with those penetrating eyes. I have office hours now, but... Rain check? Sure, Professor. You know where to find me. Just look for the most secure systems on campus. She laughed, the sound echoing in the empty lecture hall, Actually, I might need your expertise. I'm working with some recently discovered letters that seem to have a pattern to them. Bringing work into this already? And here I thought you just enjoyed my company. Who says it can't be both? She pulled out a business card, writing something on the back. My private number, in case you want to discuss professional matters. I took the card, our fingers brushing. That same electric feeling from the car rental sparked between us. She pulled away first, gathering her materials with slightly unsteady hands. I should go. My students will be waiting. Of course. I watched her walk away, her heels clicking on the polished floor. The card felt warm in my hand, her number written in elegant script. Later, in my next support group session, Dr. Martinez asked us to share any positive steps we'd taken. I thought about Tessa's card, safely tucked in my wallet, and the way my heart raced when she smiled. I'm learning to be open to new possibilities, I said carefully. Doc? Martinez nodded approvingly, but I wasn't thinking about healing anymore. I was thinking about blue eyes and historical ciphers, and how some mysteries begged to be solved. That night, I traced my fingers over Tessa's number, wondering if codes of the heart were harder to break than any military cipher. I fell asleep with the card on my nightstand, dreaming of rain-streaked windows and secret messages written in coffee steam. 3 days passed before I worked up the courage to text Tessa. Her response came within minutes. My office. PM. Bring coffee. The history department at night felt like stepping into another century. My heels echoed through empty corridors as I balanced 2 cups from the campus coffee shop. Her office door was ajar, warm light spilling into the hallway. You actually brought coffee, she said, looking up from a desk buried under papers. The lamplight caught her hair like spun gold. I follow instructions well. I set down her cup, especially from authority figures. She rolled her eyes but smiled. These letters, she said, gesturing to scattered papers, belong to 2 female scholars from the 1940s. The pattern is unusual. I leaned over her shoulder, breathing in her subtle perfume. The letters seemed ordinary at first glance, but there was something off about the spacing. Look here, I pointed, trying to ignore how close we were. The punctuation doesn't follow standard rules. Hours slipped by as we worked. Tessa's enthusiasm was contagious, her eyes lighting up with each small discovery. We found ourselves sitting closer and closer, shoulders touching as we pored over the documents. They were lovers, Tessa whispered suddenly, decoding another section, using academic correspondence to hide their relationship. The air between us grew thick with unspoken parallels. I could feel her breath on my cheek as we bent over a particularly challenging passage. Thunder rolled outside, making us both jump. Florida's weather had sneaked up on us again. What time is it? I asked, stretching. Almost midnight. She looked surprised. I've never kept anyone this late before. The lights flickered once, twice, then plunged us into darkness. Lightning illuminated the room in brief dramatic flashes. Damn it, Tessa muttered. The backup generator should kick in. I felt her move in the darkness, heard a drawer opening. Flashlight's here somewhere. We reached for it at the same time, hands colliding in the dark. Neither of us pulled away. Her fingers were warm against mine, and I could hear her breath catch. Lightning flashed again, illuminating her face inches from mine. Those blue eyes held questions I was afraid to answer. The thunder that followed seemed to shake the building's foundations. Adeline, she whispered, and my name had never sounded like that before. The backup lights hummed to life, breaking the spell. We jumped apart like guilty teenagers, though we hadn't done anything wrong. Yet. I should go, I said, gathering my things with shaking hands. It's late. Of course. She smoothed her skirt, professional mask sliding back into place. Same time tomorrow? These letters won't decode themselves. At the door, I turned back. You know what's funny? I joined that support group to get over someone. Didn't expect to find. Find what? Her voice was soft, dangerous. More mysteries to solve. I left before I could say something we weren't ready for. The rain had stopped by the time I reached my car, but my heart was still racing. In my rearview mirror, I could see Tessa watching from her office window, a silhouette against the light. That night, I dreamed of hidden messages and stolen glances, of thunder and darkness and the way her fingers felt against mine. The women in those letters had risked everything for their secret love. As I drifted off, I wondered if some risks were worth taking, if some codes were meant to be broken. My phone buzzed with a text. "You left your jacket, come claim it tomorrow?" I smiled in the darkness. "Same time, same place, I'll bring coffee." Some mysteries solve themselves if you're patient enough to let them unfold. The support group circle felt different today. Maybe it was the way sunlight streamed through the windows. Or maybe it was the way my heart hadn't stopped dancing since last night's thunderstorm in Tessa's office. "Adeline," Dr. Martinez said gently, "would you like to share your progress?" I shifted in my chair, aware of the sympathetic eyes around me. "I'm starting to feel different. Like maybe endings aren't always endings." "Care to elaborate?" Her knowing smile suggested she saw right through me. "I met someone." The words tumbled out before I could stop them. Not met exactly, more like rediscovered. The group leaned forward, hungry for details. I kept it vague, talking about shared interests and intellectual connections, but my mind was full of blue eyes and lightning flashes, of fingers touching in the dark. After the session, my phone lit up with a text from Tessa. "History Department fundraiser tonight. Dress code, formal. Come decode some boring conversations with me." My heart did that thing again, the thing it had been doing way too often lately. I typed back, "Sounds terrible. What time?" The university ballroom had been transformed into something from another era. Crystal chandeliers cast warm light over silk decorations, and a string quartet played in the corner. I smoothed down my emerald green dress, suddenly nervous. Then I saw her. Tessa wore midnight blue that made her eyes look like ocean depths. Her blonde hair was swept up, exposing the elegant line of her neck. She was talking to a group of donors, but her eyes found mine immediately. "Excuse me, gentlemen," I heard her say as I approached. "My colleague has arrived." "Colleague?" I whispered as she led me to the bar. "Is that what we're calling it? What would you prefer?" Her smile was wicked over the rim of her champagne glass. We circled the room together, playing our parts. Professor and cryptographer, two professionals discussing historical mysteries. But every brush of her hand against mine felt like code, every shared glance a cipher waiting to be broken. "Dance with me," she said suddenly, as the quartet started a slow waltz. "People will talk. Let them. We're just two colleagues enjoying the music." Her hand was warm on my waist as we moved to the center of the floor. Other couples swirled around us, but they felt distant, unreal. All I could focus on was the subtle scent of her perfume, the way her thumb traced small circles on my back. "You're good at this," I murmured. "Years of practice. Though usually not with partners who make my heart race." The confession hung between us like suspended lightning. We'd been dancing around this thing between us for weeks, neither willing to make the first definitive move. She led us through the French doors into the garden. Fairy lights twinkled in the trees, and the Florida night was warm with possibility. We stopped near a fountain, the water's music providing cover for whispered words. "Adeline," she started, then stopped. I'd never seen her uncertain before. It was endearing. "Professor James at a loss for words? Should I alert the media?" "Stop." She laughed softly. "I'm trying to say something important." But instead of speaking, she reached up and traced my cheek with gentle fingers. The touch was like breaking code, everything suddenly clear and obvious and inevitable. I'm not sure who moved first, maybe we both did. But suddenly her lips were on mine, soft and sure and tasting of champagne. The kiss was brief, but perfect, like the first word of a message you've been trying to decode for ages. We broke apart at the sound of voices approaching. Tessa stepped back, straightening her dress, but her eyes were bright with something new and wonderful. "Well," she said, slightly breathless, "that certainly clarifies things." "Does it?" I reached for her hand, needing the connection, because I think we might need to run more tests, for scientific accuracy. She laughed, the sound mixing with the fountain's splash. "Your place or mine?" "Slow down, Professor. Let's solve one mystery at a time." We rejoined the party, but everything had shifted. Every glance was a promise, every casual touch electric with potential. As we danced again more carefully now, I realized that some codes aren't meant to be broken. They're meant to be lived. Later, as she kissed me goodnight in the parking lot, I thought about those women from the letters, hiding their love in plain sight. Times had changed, but the thrill of discovery, of finding something precious and unexpected, remained the same. "See you tomorrow," she whispered against my lips. "Try and stop me." The letters were spread across Tessa's dining room table, our coffee cups leaving rings on her antique wood. Sunday morning light filtered through gauzy curtains, making her hair glow as she bent over the documents. "Listen to this," she said, excitement coloring her voice. "My dearest colleague, your latest thesis on medieval manuscripts has kept me awake far more nights than proper academic interest should warrant." I smiled, moving behind her chair. "Subtle. It gets better." She leaned back against me. "I find myself studying the curve of your handwriting with more attention than the actual content." "Sounds familiar." I kissed her neck softly, like someone who keeps staring at my encryption notes instead of reading them. "That's different. Your algorithms are actually fascinating." But she tilted her head, giving me better access. We'd been doing this dance for weeks now, working together, stealing kisses, learning each other's rhythms. The academic world had become our cover story, just like the women in these letters. "Here's another one," I said, reaching past her. "The library's rare book room provides excellent privacy for discussing theoretical frameworks." "Theoretical frameworks?" Tessa laughed. "Is that what they called it?" "Speaking of which," I pulled her up from the chair, "maybe we should conduct some research of our own." Her kiss tasted like coffee and promises. We stumbled toward her bedroom, leaving centuries-old secrets scattered on the table. Later, tangled in her Egyptian cotton sheets, we returned to the letters. Tessa read them aloud, her voice husky, while I traced patterns on her bare shoulder. "They were so careful," she mused. "Every word chosen to have double meaning. They had to be. The stakes were higher then." She rolled over to face me. "Are they so different now? We're still hiding in academic language, in professional collaboration." "Tessa, no, listen. These women, they found a way to love despite everything. Their courage is preserved in these codes." I kissed her forehead, right above that small scar I'd first noticed at Enterprise. "And we're helping tell their story." The afternoon stretched lazy and golden around us. We ordered takeout, spread the letters on the bed, and lost ourselves in decades-old love stories written between the lines of scholarly discourse. "Look at this date," Tessa suddenly sat up, clutching a letter. "This was written the day after Pearl Harbor." The paper was aged, delicate, but the words were clear. "In times of war, we must guard what matters most. Some battles are fought not with weapons, but with silence and discretion." "They were scared," I said softly. "But they didn't stop writing." Tessa's eyes shone with unshed tears. They kept finding ways to reach each other. I gathered her in my arms, letters crinkling beneath us. The weight of history pressed against my skin, stories of love surviving against all odds. "We should publish their story," Tessa whispered against my chest. "Are you sure?" "It would mean coming out?" "Yes." She lifted her head, determination setting her jaw. "They deserve to be heard then. They deserve to be heard now." I kissed her, slow and deep, trying to pour everything I couldn't say into it. When we broke apart, she was smiling. "Besides," she added, "I'm tired of pretending my colleague is just a research partner." "What am I then?" Her answer was lost in another kiss, more urgent this time. The letters scattered to the floor as we made our own history, writing our story in touches and whispers and shared breaths. Later, as twilight painted her bedroom in shades of purple, we carefully gathered the fallen papers. Each one felt sacred now, a testament to love's persistence. "We'll need to be careful with the publication," I said, straightening the stack. "These women took risks to protect each other. We owe them the same respect?" Tessa nodded, then pulled me close. "Some codes are meant to be broken," she whispered, echoing my thoughts from weeks ago. "And some stories are meant to be told." That night, we fell asleep surrounded by love letters from another time, our own unspoken words hanging in the air like invisible ink, waiting to be revealed. The text came while I was decoding a particularly nasty piece of encrypted data at work. "We need to talk. Coffee at our old spot?" My heart stopped. I knew that number by heart, though I deleted it months ago. Sarah, my ex, was back in Tampa. I showed up at Rosie's diner, not the one where Tessa and I had sheltered from the storm, but the one where Sarah had ended things. She sat in our old booth, looking exactly the same. "You look good, Addie," she said, using the nickname I'd once loved. "It's Adeline now." I kept my voice steady. "What do you want, Sarah?" "I made a mistake. That thing with Rachel, it wasn't real. I miss you." The words I'd once dreamed of hearing now felt hollow. I thought of Tessa's blue eyes, of ancient love letters and shared secrets. "You should go," I said, standing up. "Addie, please. We had 5 years, and you threw them away. I have to get back to work." I drove straight to campus, needing to see Tessa, but her office was dark and my texts went unanswered. Finally, her teaching assistant told me she'd canceled her afternoon classes. That evening, I found her in her apartment, surrounded by research papers. "Hey," I said softly. "You weren't answering your phone." "I saw you." Her voice was carefully neutral. "At the diner? With her?" "Tessa?" "No, it's fine. We never said we were exclusive. And 5 years is a long history." "Stop." I moved closer, but she stepped back. "Sarah means nothing. She wanted to apologize, and I told her to leave." "Did you?" Tessa's eyes were bright with unshed tears. "Because from where I stood, it looked intimate." "You were there?" "I was bringing you lunch. Surprise." She laughed bitterly. "Guess the surprise was on me." I reached for her hand, but she pulled away. "I need time, Adeline. This, US. It's complicated enough without adding X's into the mix." "It's not complicated for me." The words burst out. "I'm falling in love with you." The silence that followed was deafening. Tessa stared at me, her professional mask cracking. "Don't," she whispered. "Don't say that, unless you mean it." "I do mean it. Sarah showing up today only proved it. What we have, the codes, the letters, everything, it's real. The university board is already asking questions about our research collaboration. If they find out about us, then let them find out. We're not doing anything wrong." She sank onto her couch, suddenly looking tired. "My last relationship ended my career at Princeton. I can't go through that again." I sat beside her, careful to maintain distance. The support group taught me something important. Running from love doesn't protect you, it just guarantees you'll never find it. "When did you get so wise?" A small smile played at her lips. "I had a good teacher. She specializes in historical patterns." That earned me a real laugh. She leaned into me slightly, the tension beginning to ease. "Sarah really means nothing?" she asked quietly. "Less than nothing. She's my past, you're my—" I hesitated. "Your what?" "My unfinished chapter." I took her hand, relieved when she didn't pull away. "And I'd really like to keep writing it with you." She studied our intertwined fingers. "The department party next week. Come with me, not as a colleague, as my date." My heart soared. "Are you sure?" "No." She smiled. "But those women in the letters taught me something too. Some things are worth the risk." I pulled her close, breathing in her familiar scent. "I love you," I whispered again, because now that I'd said it once, I couldn't stop. This time, she didn't tell me not to say it. Instead, she kissed me, soft and sure, like she was finally breaking her own code. Later, in my support group, Dr. Martinez asked about my progress. "I learned that sometimes," I said, thinking of Tessa. "The best way to heal isn't to avoid love, but to risk it all over again." The group nodded, understanding. But they couldn't know that my heart was already across campus, in an office filled with ancient letters and modern love. I started leaving coded messages in Tessa's office after our reconciliation. Little notes hidden in her books, each one a puzzle for her to solve. Today's was tucked into her favorite medieval manuscript. "Meet me where lightning first struck. Bring your decoding skills. A." Between classes, I watched her find it, saw her smile as she worked out the reference to our stormy first meeting. But before she could respond, a knock interrupted us. "Professor James?" Dr. Harrison, the department head, stood in the doorway. "A word?" I slipped out, but not before catching his disapproving glance. The hallway buzzed with whispers as I passed. Word was spreading about us, turning our love into campus gossip. Later, in the cafeteria, I overheard 2 graduate students. "Did you hear about Professor James and the cryptographer? The blonde and the brunette? Always in her office, after hours." I gripped my coffee cup tighter, remembering Tessa's fears about Princeton. My phone buzzed with a text from her. Emergency faculty meeting. Something's wrong. The meeting was already heated when I arrived. I stood at the back, watching Tessa face her colleagues. She looked magnificent in her anger, all ice and fire. My personal life is not up for debate, she was saying. Your relationship with Ms. Baker raises concerns about professional boundaries, Harrison countered. The board questions the objectivity of your research. Our research is groundbreaking, you know that. Research conducted during private meetings in your office, late-night sessions in your apartment. The room fell silent. Tessa's hands trembled slightly, but her voice remained steady. Those women were studying risked everything to be together. They hid their love in academic papers because they had to. I won't dishonor their memory by hiding mine. Tessa, I stepped forward, unable to stay silent. You don't have to. Yes, I do. She turned to face the room. I'm in love with Adeline Baker. Our relationship has nothing to do with our research, except that it helped us understand those letters better than anyone else could. Murmurs rippled through the faculty. I moved to stand beside her, our shoulders touching. If you question our work, I added, test it, review it, but don't you dare question our integrity. Dr. Martinez, who I hadn't noticed was present, stood up. As the university's head of counseling, I can attest to both women's professionalism. Their research is valid, their methodology sound. Others began speaking up, younger professors, graduate students, even the library's head archivist. Support we hadn't expected, hadn't dared hope for. Harrison looked uncomfortable. The board will need assurances. Then give them our research, Tessa interrupted. Let them see what we've uncovered. These letters aren't just about hidden love. They're about women's contributions to academia, contributions that were buried because of prejudice. The meeting dissolved into smaller discussions. As we left, Tessa gripped my hand tightly. I'm sorry, she whispered. I should have handled it differently. Are you kidding? That was amazing. You were amazing. She smiled weakly. I might lose my job. Then we'll fight it. Together. Back in her office, we found more support. Notes slipped under her door, emails from students and colleagues. The whispers hadn't stopped, but they'd changed tone. I pulled out a fresh piece of paper, wrote a quick code. Dinner tonight? My place? She decoded it instantly, adding her own message. Only if you promise to keep making me brave. You don't need my help with that, I said, kissing her softly. You're the bravest person I know. That evening, curled on my couch, we read more of the historical letters. They felt different now, not just research subjects, but kindred spirits across time. Listen to this, Tessa read. They may judge us, my love, but they cannot diminish what we are to each other. I held her closer. They were right. We'll finish their story, she said firmly, no matter what happens. And our own? She turned to face me, blue eyes fierce. Our story's just beginning, and unlike theirs, ours won't be hidden in code. Outside, Tampa's evening traffic hummed, but in my apartment, we were in our own world. A world of ancient secrets and modern love, of risks taken and battles chosen. No more hiding, I agreed, pulling her close. Her kiss tasted like promise and defiance, like history being made and old wounds healing. Whatever came next, we would face it together, our love written not in code but in bold, clear text for all to see. The week after our public outing felt like walking through a minefield in heels. Every corridor whisper, every glance carried weight, but Tessa moved through it all with a grace that took my breath away. I was in her office, organizing research notes, when Harrison appeared again. Professor James, Ms. Baker. He looked uncomfortable. The board has reached a decision. Tessa's hand found mine under the desk. And? Your research proposal has been approved, with conditions. We listened as he outlined the terms, separate offices, documented meeting times, peer review of all findings. Standard academic protocol that somehow felt both restrictive and liberating. One more thing, he added, pausing at the door. The university's LGBTQ Alumni Association is interested in your work. They've offered additional funding. After he left, Tessa collapsed into laughter. Did that just happen? I think we just got officially sanctioned, I grinned, pulling her close. And funded. She kissed me, quick and joyful. Take that, Princeton. The support group met that afternoon. Dr. Martinez beamed as I entered. Adeline, we heard about your presentation to the board. The circle felt different now, not a place of healing, but of celebration. I shared our story, watching faces light up with hope. Sometimes, Dr. Martinez said, love is the best therapy. Back in my office, I found Tessa waiting with coffee and a mischievous smile. The diner, she said, where it all started. Tonight? The same booth, the same rain-streaked windows. But everything else had changed. Remember that first day? I asked, stirring my coffee. When we fought over a car? I thought you were the most irritating woman I'd ever met. And now? Still irritating, she smiled. But also essential. The waitress who'd served us that first day recognized us. You two finally figured it out, huh? We shared a look, remembering all the codes we'd broken to get here. Yeah, I said. We did. Later, walking through campus hand in hand, we passed the bulletin board where I'd first seen her lecture announcement. New flyers advertised our upcoming presentation on the wartime letters. Are you ready for this? I asked. Going public with their story, with ours? She stopped, turning to face me. I spent years studying hidden messages, reading between lines, decoding secrets. But this, us, I want in plain text. Even with the professional risks? Especially because of them. Her eyes blazed. Those women couldn't tell their story, we can tell ours. The support group had gathered allies, students, faculty, even the campus LGBTQ center rallied behind us. Our research became more than academic. It became a bridge between past and present. That night, in Tessa's apartment, we practiced our presentation. The letters spread around us like fallen leaves, each one a testament to love's persistence. My dearest colleague, she read, in studying these ancient texts with you, I have discovered something far more valuable than academic knowledge. They were brave, I said softly. They were in love. Tessa set down the letter. Just like us. The kiss that followed was different, not hidden, not careful, but proud and certain. We'd fought for this, just like those women decades ago. I love you, she whispered against my lips. No code needed. I love you too. I pulled back to meet her eyes. In plain text, bold font, all caps. She laughed, the sound echoing through her apartment like music. Outside, Tampa's lights twinkled like stars, and the future stretched before us, bright and unencrypted. The support group had taught me about healing, about moving forward. But Tessa had taught me about courage, the courage to love openly, to fight for what matters. Tomorrow, we would tell their story, and ours. Two tales of love transcending time, no longer hidden in margins or between lines. Ready for tomorrow? She asked, curling into my side. With you? Always. The letters rustled around us, ancient paper carrying timeless truths. We were their legacy, their story continued. And we would make them proud. The auditorium buzzed with anticipation. Standing backstage, I watched Tessa adjust her presentation notes for the 100th time. Stop fidgeting, I whispered, straightening her collar. You look perfect. This isn't just another lecture. Her blue eyes met mine. This is their story, our story. The crowd included academics, students, and representatives from major universities. Our research had attracted attention far beyond Tampa. Ready? I squeezed her hand. She nodded, transforming into Professor James before my eyes. We walked onto the stage together, professional but not hiding. Ladies and gentlemen, Tessa began, today we present Love in Code, Female Scholars and Hidden Messages in World War II. The presentation flowed seamlessly. We took turns, our voices weaving together like the codes we'd broken. Tessa handled the historical context while I explained the encryption methods. These women, I said, displaying a particularly moving letter, used academic language as cover, but their real message was written between the lines. The audience leaned forward as we revealed each layer of meaning. Gasps followed our biggest discovery, proof that these women had influenced major wartime decisions while maintaining their secret relationship. Their contribution to history was nearly lost, Tessa continued, buried under society's prejudices. But love, like truth, finds a way to survive. During the compa, a young student raised her hand. Did studying their story affect your own relationship? The room held its breath. Tessa looked at me, a silent question in her eyes. I nodded. Yes, she answered simply. It gave us courage. These women risked everything for love. How could we do any less? Applause thundered through the hall. Colleagues who'd once whispered behind our backs now lined up to congratulate us. The Princeton representative looked particularly chagrined. Berkeley would be honored to host your next presentation, one professor said. Stanford too, added another. Later, celebrating in my apartment, Tessa kicked off her heels with a sigh of relief. We did it, she said, collapsing onto the couch. They're finally being heard. And us? I handed her a glass of wine. Are we being heard? She pulled me down beside her. Loud and clear. The following weeks brought changes. Our research was published in leading academic journals. Universities requested guest lectures. The history department, once scandalized by our relationship, now proudly promoted our work. Move in with me, Tessa said one evening, surrounded by packing boxes in her office. We were relocating to a shared research space, the university's compromise. What? Move in with me. No more coding our schedules, no more splitting time between apartments. I looked at her, this brilliant woman who'd changed my life. Are you sure? I've never been more sure of anything. She stepped closer. Except maybe that day at Enterprise when I decided to share a car with an irritating cryptographer. I wasn't irritating, I protested. I was assertive. You were beautiful. She touched my cheek. You still are. The support group celebrated our success, but more importantly, they celebrated our happiness. Dr. Martinez hugged me tight. You've come so far, she whispered. We all have, I replied, watching other group members share their own victories. That night, in what would soon be our shared home, Tessa and I read the letters again, not as researchers now, but as guardians of a legacy. Listen to this, she said softly. My dearest, when future generations look back, may they find in our words the courage to live their own truth. I kissed her then, tasting wine and triumph and love. Outside, Tampa's night was alive with possibility. They would be proud, I murmured against her lips. Of the research? Of everything. Of how their story helped write ours. She smiled, that brilliant smile that still made my heart skip. Speaking of writing, Berkeley wants us next month. Together? Always together. She pulled me closer. No more codes, remember? No more hiding, I agreed. The letters watched over us, these paper witnesses to love's endurance. We were their storytellers now, their legacy carriers. And our own story was just beginning its next chapter. 1 year to the day after our car rental adventure, I stood in the Enterprise parking lot, heart racing. The same clerk was there, doing a double take when he recognized me. Miss Baker, no arguments over reservations today, I hope? I smiled, checking my watch. Not yet. Tessa was running late, as usual. Our life together had fallen into comfortable patterns. Her perpetual lateness, my obsessive organization, the way we still left coded messages for each other, just for fun. When she finally arrived, breathless and beautiful, I couldn't help but laugh. Some things never changed. Sorry, faculty meeting ran long and, she stopped, noticing my expression. What's going on? Remember this spot? I took her hand. Right here, you argued with me over a car. And you were insufferably stubborn about it. Best mistake Enterprise ever made. I pulled her closer. Want to know why I really asked you here? Her eyes widened as I reached into my pocket, pulling out an old-fashioned cipher wheel. I'd spent weeks crafting it, each ring engraved with our story. Decode this, I whispered, handing it to her. Her fingers, so skilled at unraveling mysteries, turned the wheels carefully. The message appeared letter by letter. Will you marry me? Adeline. Her voice caught. I dropped to one knee right there in the parking lot where it all began. Those women we studied, they couldn't have this. Couldn't stand in public and declare their love. But we can. And I want to, Tessa. I want everything with you. Tears sparkled in her blue eyes as she pulled me up. Yes, she breathed against my lips. Yes, you brilliant, insufferable woman. The clerk applauded, along with a small crowd that had gathered. Someone wolf whistled. Tessa laughed, kissing me again. I have something for you too, she said, opening her bag. Great minds think alike. She handed me a leather-bound book. Inside, I found our story. Every coded message, every stolen moment, woven together with the wartime letters we'd studied. Our research is being published next month, she explained. But this one's just for us. That evening, we celebrated at Rosie's diner. Both diners, actually. First the one where we'd sheltered from the storm, then the one where I'd turned Sarah away. Full circle. The support group threw us a surprise party. Dr. Martinez hugged us both, whispering, "Sometimes the best therapy is finding someone who speaks your language." Later, in our home, surrounded by books and papers and the comfortable chaos of our shared life, Tessa traced the cipher wheel's engravings. "You know what this means?" she asked. "We'll have to hyphenate our names on the next research paper. Professor James Baker has a nice ring to it." Speaking of research, she pulled out her laptop. "The Berkeley presentation next week. No work talk." I closed the laptop. Tonight's just about us. We ended up on our balcony, watching Tampa's lights twinkle. The cipher wheel caught the moonlight, casting patterns like secret messages on the wall. "Think they'd be happy?" Tessa asked softly. "The women from the letters?" I thought about their courage, their hidden love, their faith in future generations. "I think they'd be proud. We're living the life they dreamed of." "No more codes," she murmured. "No more hiding," I agreed. "Though I might still leave you encrypted love notes." "You better." She kissed me, soft and sure. After all, that's how our story began. The night wrapped around us like a familiar embrace. Below, the city hummed with life, and above, stars wrote their own ancient messages across the sky. We'd started as strangers fighting over a car, became colleagues decoding history, and ended up here, writing our own story, in plain text, for all to see. "I love you," Tessa whispered. "No encryption needed." "I love you too," I replied, simple and clear as breaking code. Some mysteries are meant to be solved, some codes meant to be broken. But the greatest discovery of all? Sometimes love is the answer you weren't even looking for. And that's the best kind of ending. The kind that's really just another beginning.